There's an old Dutch story of a boy. We'll call him Boer. Boer was walking with his brother on the outskirts of town, further than his parents had allowed them, by the dam, or what the Dutch call a dike. In the distance, Boer saw a leak. Now the dam protects every soul in the town, as the slightest break could very well wash away their homes. So the boy plugged the leak with his finger. Knowing it isn't a permanent solution, he tasked his younger brother to run into the town to find help. The shivering from the freezing cold water had travelled to his shoulder. He rested his head on the dam and heard a voice, and it was the water. "You can't stop me. You're just a boy, and I am the ocean." The water then got colder, and the pressure began to push his finger out. He turned behind him to see if help was on the way. No one was there. He used his other hand to hold himself firm as he yelled, "I may be just a boy, but my father built this dam to keep you out. I will not let you through." Then Boer heard the tractors behind him. The entire town was moments away. Boer's story is known today around the world. A boy who risked everything to protect everyone. On May the 13th, 2019, around 200 animal rights activists stormed a pig farm in the province of North Brabant in the Netherlands. The group, named Meet the Victims, spelt M-E-A-T, took over the farm both inside and out, demanding coverage from the media to show the treatment of the pigs. Unbeknownst to them, a counter-protest arose on the other side by opposing farmers who were upset that activists used the farm as an example. This lasted hours before arrests were made. Local politicians swiftly denounced the animal rights protest. The province Brabant has one of the largest numbers of farmers in the country. Though it was an animal rights group, the point of why now was missed by most. In 2019, the Dutch government proposed a policy to halve the current amount of livestock in response to a report done by a third-party environmental research institute that declared a nitrogen emission crisis in the Netherlands. This birthed a resistance group called the Farmers Defence Force, who thought the report unjustifiably targeted farmers whilst leaving out the major polluters like Shell. Eventually, this led to a week of demonstrations, including tens of thousands of farmers across the country. But this was nothing compared to what ensued over the next 3 years. Nitrogen is to crops what water is to fish. Whether it is from nitrogen fertilizers or livestock manure, its uses are critical to farm production. Proper practices can be done to avoid losses of the chemical compound nitrous oxide, which is a greenhouse gas. The farmers do this because the more they contain the gas, the happier the crop. Nitrous oxide, however, just happens to be the third highest concentration in our atmosphere. This compound, living up to 125 years, is considered by climate alarmists to be more dangerous than CO2. Though nitrogen is the largest component of air, CO2 isn't this dangerous component alarmists keep spouting. Most progressive farmers refine their process. An example is avoiding wet conditions, as it produces more nitrous oxide. But in the Netherlands, the government saw no other option than to enact legislation to reduce nitrogen emissions.
In the existing Next-Gen EU fund, there is still a lot of money, which is also partly funneled towards greening our economies, and that's exactly what we need to do to become less gas and oil dependent.
In May of 2019, the Council of State, which is a court of administrative law, ruled that livestock farms can no longer expand after determining the Dutch nitrogen programme is no longer sufficient. These far-reaching laws stretched into farms all over the Netherlands. Then in 2019, Dutch MP Sjoerd de Groot proposed legislation to halve livestock in order to cut down on nitrogen. The same MP who filed a motion in March 22 for cultivated meat producers to start testing before coming onto the market. On the 1st of October 2019, thousands of farmers aimed at The Hague for a protest that stretched over 1,000 kilometers in traffic. This day changed the course of history for months to come. As the protests didn't slow down, it had only grown. The military had been deployed, which the farmers interpreted as a step towards civil war. Through the end of the year, the farmers began to block infrastructure, like the border between the Netherlands and Germany, with the help of German farmers. They also blocked distribution centres and even airports. The farmers rallied for another year until COVID slowed this down. Though protests only changed course, the Dutch found another reason to dissent against their government.
Several hundred people had gathered to show their opposition to a partial lockdown imposed last week and government plans limiting access for unvaccinated people to some venues.
Fast forward to the summer of 2022, when COVID could no longer be used to crush differences of opinion. Mark Rutte, the Dutch Prime Minister, and his cabinet designated 24.3 billion euros to finance agriculture reforms that will now require farmers to cut down livestock or, in some cases, get rid of them. This proposal followed the decision to cut nitrogen oxide emissions in half by, of course, 2030. It's estimated that this cut will lead to a 30% closure of livestock farms. Reminiscent of the 2019 protests, the farmers revolted once again, but this time bigger than ever before.
Nice to have you here in the Black Box studio.
Thank you. Thank you.
For people that don't know Rebel News, can you explain What kind of channel is Rebel News?
I think to sum it up, we are just an independent media outlet, and we've come here to the Netherlands and we've created a special website here called farmerrebellion.com, which is where viewers can basically stay up to date with our independent journalism.
You're from Canada?
Correct.
You must have seen similar scenes with the trucker convoy.
Oh yeah. Yes, very similar. Being down here reminds me a lot of being in Ottawa.
We're going to talk to some people here, we're going to get some opinions on the matter, and we're going to find out if they believe that these protests are going to end the mandates here in Canada. Let's check it out.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau enacted some of the harshest COVID-19 mandates in any developed country. From nurses to teachers to first responders, if you weren't vaccinated, you were to be let go from your job.
If you don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train beside vaccinated people and put them at risk.
But when Justin Trudeau mandated that unvaccinated truckers have to quarantine for 2 weeks after returning from their out-of-country job, it was logistically impossible to work. So truckers protested on a scale never before seen in the history of the country. From British Columbia to Ottawa, over 4,000 kilometers, truckers convoyed in the tens of thousands to show their discontent with the mandates. When they arrived in Ottawa, they were met with a brutal crackdown. Again, never before seen in the history of peaceful protests. Rebel News reporter Lincoln Jay was embedded for 3 weeks in the trucker protest, documenting the historic uprising in freezing cold conditions. Naturally, Lincoln was a great candidate to send across the world to investigate the farmer rebellion in the Netherlands. The World Economic Forum has its tentacles everywhere at the minute, and what's strange is the parallel between different countries. You have working class people here in the Netherlands and working class people in Canada and many other countries who are worried about the same thing, whether it be the World Economic Forum or government overreach. It's something that people need to be made aware of.
Do you agree with that?
The Netherlands, even a small country, but still belonging to the 20, not so to the G20, but to the 20 most important economies in the world.
I've been extremely critical of the World Economic Forum and their visions for some time now. Our team at Rebel News has been releasing an investigative series on Klaus Schwab's book that's gone viral across the globe. And I recently travelled to Davos to cover the World Economic Forum in person. This is why I went with Lincoln to the Netherlands to see the World Economic Forum's policies and to document how it would affect ordinary working class citizens in the Netherlands and beyond. To show you what the mainstream media will not tell you and to tell the story of these Dutch farmers.
You are a principled man. You are a compass man. Someone who has clear values, who follows his values. So you are a real statesman.
Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte is an agenda contributor for the World Economic Forum, an elitist organisation that plans to reshape society as we know it, with a plan called the Great Reset. Led by a man named Klaus Schwab. This group has a large presence in most of the world's cabinets and governments, most notably in Canada.
That we penetrate the cabinets. I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum.
The World Economic Forum's influence between these two countries reflects deeply in the policies both governments enact. The worldwide phenomenon of a climate crisis has allotted governments to share a similar goal of curbing emissions by a specific date, 2030. This is referred to as net zero.
Reaching net zero emissions requires us to do two things. First, we must reduce our emissions to as close to zero as possible, as quickly as possible, phasing out coal, investing in clean energy, shifting to electric vehicles.
Maar even, weet je, als je natuurlijk huizen bouwt in de stad, dat zijn ze hier aan het doen. Dat ligt natuurlijk, als je een paar weilanden leeg trekt en je zet een huis in, is veel makkelijker dan in de stad.
Rutte and Klaus have an interesting connection. One that may lead to ask, who is really pulling the strings in the Netherlands?
People are ready to fight back and do what they can to make sure that the powers that be don't follow through with their agendas. But I think what's really interesting about what's happening here in the Netherlands is that it's food, right? It's right to the core of human survival. It's food.
I'd like to highlight a World Economic Forum initiative in this regard, the World Economic Forum Food Innovation Hubs.
The World Economic Forum has partnered with the Dutch government and Dutch private businesses to begin a program dubbed Food Innovation Hubs, where what already started in the Netherlands plans to stretch into 4 other countries in 3 different continents. Their program hopes to transform agricultural sectors by adjusting them using hubs that will redevelop land, curb greenhouse gas emissions, engineer food to assist in malnutrition or obesity, and restore ecosystems. Now, in practice, it sounds like a positive step, but why the need to push out already existing farmers?
Hey, Boer, rij weg!
Kankerwagon! Hey!
If they're gonna do everything that they want, if they want to go to the goal, they're gonna reduce 50% of the farmers here in Holland.
The population is growing. They need more food. It's stupid to chase the farmers away who provide food.
And that's only the farming. But the truck drivers is gonna come down, industry is gonna come down, mechanics is gonna come down, everything is going down. So we got a big problem here in Holland.
We are following, once again, a tractor convoy. Now, the farmers are out in full force today, carrying on their protest against these radical environmental policies imposed by the Dutch government. We're going to continue to follow them throughout the town, see where they end up.
They're just making us rebellers, and they seem to, their rules and regulations seem to be non-political. So the rules and regulations are scientific and clean, and you cannot opposite against it. You cannot stand up against it because then you're non-scientific. But we say make the rules and regulations in this country political again.
I think lots of people got inspired by the Freedom Convoy in Canada.
Gebeurt wat er nou ligt. Dan moet gewoon terug naar de tekentafel, want het klopt gewoon niet.
Not fair, and he doesn't feel like he has any sort of security, like about his future. Like, what do we need to do to keep this government satisfied with everything? And we have done all kinds of innovations. We've tried everything that we could, and now the politicians are leaving for their summer holidays. So that's why they are going out right now and protesting until this plan is off the table completely. That's what their demands are right now.
So they're trying to bring in green policies, is that correct? That would decimate?
No, they want to destroy the farmers, so they can. The price of the land is going down, so they can buy a lot of land, so they can make house. For people, that's the reason.
How does that make you feel?
Sad.
Yeah, you've been working together as a team the last few days. Mm-hmm. What is the most exciting thing that you experienced?
Well, it's been quite a journey so far. I think one thing that really stood out with me was we covered a blockade of a highway, I believe the A37 in the Netherlands, that connects the Netherlands to the German border. And protesters supporters of the farmers decided to block off a particular section of the highway. They'd done this 3 times in one day, and we chose to go and cover this. And I think what was striking was people actually brought things such as like duvets, beds, ready to put in their car because they were so determined and passionate to show their support. They were ready to camp out overnight. And they even brought like a make-up barbecue, like a ready barbecue, and they were cooking sausages and hamburgers and onions in the middle of this highway whilst it was blocked off late at night. Currently sandwiched in a convoy of supporters for the farmers, where they're making their way to the German border on the A37 with plans to, I believe, block the border. There's a lot of people, like trolls online and, you know, just people in general, will say things like, this only hurts like ordinary people. What do you say to the people who say that?
A little bit it does, but we don't only want the government to see that we're done with it. We want to see that the whole Netherlands that we're done with it, because it doesn't only goes to the farmers that are in this. It goes to all the people in the Netherlands, because there's no food in the market and no milk. So it's not only the government we want to hit, but the Netherlands we want also to see that we're done.
And so this blockade is a statement to the government?
Yes, of course this is a statement. Because the last time you were here, we had not so much cars as we have now. We are now with, this is Drenthe, the A37, but Groningen is also here now, from Zuidbroek. You always was there, you know? And now they are here also. So we are getting bigger and bigger, and more people's getting their eyes closed, open. Right. They see now what's happening, you know? We see the light. Yeah. And that's the reason why we do this. And we are all one team, one job, you know? Yeah. We are all standing together.
Thumbs up? Thumbs up? Comfy? Yeah? How long do you think you would stay here? All night. All night?
More normal people, not only the farmers, but more and more normal people are coming with us, so that's good. They see that it's not okay what they're doing.
So why are you here today specifically?
We just want to go home. Yeah, we're stuck here.
Yeah, by accident.
Yeah, we didn't know that this was going to happen.
No, we didn't know.
we want
little
to go home.
party.
But we understand. We understand. But
It's actually just sad that, you know, it's actually come to this. We've seen signs since driving here with signs saying help and help the Boer, you know, and things like that. And it's, I just see this as such a desperate act. And currently, protesters are doing a slow drive across the highway. We're right in the thick of it. And we're right at the front as well, to add. We have been driving for how long now? Has it been 40 minutes?
We've been on the road in total following this convoy for probably the past 2-3 hours. No, this particular point since the last blockade, it's been about 40 minutes, I would say.
The WEF say a lot of weird things, like you'll own nothing and be happy. You know, the classic lines that come out from them. And they want to transition from eating meat to 3D printed meat and eating bugs, things like that, because they believe, their own personal belief is that we must transition to a new era, well, it's a reset, really. And this building happens to be a company called Picnic. Now, for those who don't know what Picnic is, it's a type of supermarket grocery store that uses electric vehicles to deliver groceries to citizens around the area, and has actually been funded by guess who? Bill and Melinda Gates, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to be exact. And a strange coincidence, Christian van der Wal Zeglink, the Nature and Nitrogen Minister, is married to Piet van der Wal, an heir to the wealth of the family who owns a supermarket chain called Bonnie. The supermarket chain Bonnie is one of a small group of 4 big investors in the online supermarket chain Picnic. The Van der Wal family was part of a group of investors back in 2015 and 2019 who generated 450 million euros for the Picnic grocery operation. Additionally, Bill and Melinda Gates are big investors into Picnic. Buying from Bonnie Supermarket or ordering online from Picnic Home Grocery Delivery is essentially the same thing. The current owner and CEO of Picnic is a man named Michel Muller. Mr. Muller is a Dutch entrepreneur, climate change activist, and self-described visionary who intends to change the entire food system and eliminate waste.
Democratizing food delivery, that's one. Secondly, of course, the food system is broken in a way that there's a lot of food waste. So we avoid that by the way we're working. We drive electrical vans. We are working with local products.
This is, of course, to be in line with sustainable energy goals and the climate change agenda.
Now is the time to make the changes we need to build a climate resilient world. Build back better.
For a summary, the Nitrogen Policy Minister Christian van der Wal Zeglink is married to the ultra-wealthy family who own the supermarket chain Bonnie, together with other climate change investors including Bill and Melinda Gates. Bonnie funds online supermarket Picnic. Sales from Picnic, or Bonnie, directly increase the wealth of the Dutch Nitrogen Policy Minister. Picnic also sells the engineered food that Bill Gates promotes. So we know who funds it and we know who owns it. But the question is, what started it? Now, at this current stage, we don't know. We don't know the causes of it and we don't know how it began. Now, it's easy to start connecting the dots because of the current state of the world we live in right now. But from what we know, we don't actually know what's caused it. There are speculations to say that it could be an electrical fire because the batteries inside of the vehicles they use to transport the groceries could have malfunctioned. Other speculations include it could be for insurance purposes because the business probably isn't doing that well and they want to build something else there. And other speculations could be that someone was behind it and has some kind of connection with the current rebellion from the farmers because of government overreach. Where the Dutch government are actually imposing laws that could take 30% of farmers' land to reduce nitrogen emissions, and of course the farmers are not happy. Now, this is all speculation. We don't know what's caused it, but still, it's a fascinating story. And you've seen the clips with Mark Rutte, the Dutch Prime Minister, with Klaus Schwab, and their intentions in using the same key phrases, Agenda 2030, Build Back Better. You hear all of that, but we don't know what better means. Is it better for us? Is it better for you? Or is it better for them?
To increase prosperity and improve public health, but also to build back better.
The Build Back Better slogan has been used by many WEF-affiliated leaders, including Justin Trudeau.
Building back better.
To do things differently. To build back better.
We're going to build it back better.
And build it back better.
It's my plan to build back better.
Trudeau, you'll remember, treated peaceful protesters and independent journalists with brute force. It's almost like the sentiment of building back better is actually more about subduing those who dissent from this narrative. If the demands from the farmers are not met, what do you think happens next?
Well, I know the farmers a bit, and if they draw a line in the sand, they draw a line in the sand. So what will happen next? They will not back up. So we are sort of on a collision course.
I think there's gonna be farmers today or tomorrow, they go to their homes and they say, if you don't come there, we come to you. And that's gonna be a problem, and I don't want that. I want to just talk to them and get over it. Yeah. I think the farmers will explode. I think that is gonna happen. Because it's going bad. It's going wrong, all the way wrong now.
I'm afraid it will be a civil war. Look at what the whole country is doing now. No one is standing behind our government anymore.
I think Europe is gonna go down.
Yeah.
Yes, and the civil war is going to start.
And how does that make you feel?
Sad.
It'll get worse, a lot of worse. Yeah. We just continue up to a civil war. I don't know, but they gotta go. They are not for us.
I think there's going to be a small civil war. I can imagine it's going to be a lot of mayhem.
Being on the ground here, talking to people in Amsterdam, in the more rural areas up north, everywhere, people seem to understand that there's something not right. There's something seriously not right happening here. And when we went into Amsterdam, a lot of the people, a lot of the folks up north thought that, you know, the city people would be more out of touch with what's happening, and they might not understand what's happening, where the food comes from. Mm-hmm. But to our surprise, when we went out there and we interviewed people, we spoke to people, people know, people understand. Mm-hmm. And like I said, people realize that there's something very, very strange going on right now.
On one side, you can understand that, okay, if there's something to do with the global, quote-unquote, global warming, okay, I understand that. But at the same time, on the other side, they still have to live, they still have to manage, and we still have to eat. So people actually every day goes shopping and gets food on the table, but somebody has to make it happen. So those farmers, you know, sweat and tears every day to actually make it happen.
What's happening? People ain't listening. The government works for us, not the other way around. If we go there, do this, do that. No, don't say no about us or go the other way. We elected you, do your fucking job you paid for. If not, get the fuck out of there.
Since when the government gives a fuck about the climate? The government only gives a fuck about the money. But we here forget that the government is working for us. The government is making us work for them. Well, it's the other way around, bro.
I don't know really what they are doing, but the farmers, they are hard, you know. If what they want, they will get it eventually. And I think, yeah, they're doing a good job. Government, they only think about themselves. It doesn't matter they don't care about anybody else.
Yeah, of course, I think people should fight for something when something's being taken away from them. So I would. I don't know about the rest of the people, but yeah, I think yes.
A lot of farmers are trying to do their best for everything, to make everything prepared, to help us. And the government here is not doing anything about it.
It's like somebody else is pulling the strings. It's like I think the governments have been infiltrated. It looks like it.
The environment is also really important, but I also understand that they are losing their life, basically. So.
Dovreste venire tutti con noi perché mancherà il pane sulla...
Well, I think you must remember that the Netherlands is a large exporter of food and supply chains, and the WF have made it clear that they want control of that.
I'm Oepke van der Beek. I have a dairy farm with 60 cows and of course the younger cattle. So in an amount of 100, that would be basically we're just producing milk and meat, mostly from grass-fed, of course. So the cattle will go outside mostly of the year, and then of course winter they'll stay inside. And it's well, I'm the third generation now, which is doing that, and it's one of the most fantastic jobs to do. Being there, being in nature, working with your soil and everything, the whole circle. It has to be rounded. That's just one of the fantastic things to be part of. We need a government to say, like, okay, guys, this is the horizon. We want to go over here, and that's the lack of government we have at this point. And they're just igniting a bomb here and there, and you know, if we're going to do something, let's do something, but let's do it all together. And now nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah, I have a transport company, and 60% of my work is for farmers. Because when they want to have the farmers away, with one farmer there are much more work from it. It's not only the farm, it's transport, it's who brings the food, who gets the milk and everything. Yeah.
So now we got this food, we got good food, and we export it, and well, we take care of a lot of food. Voedselzekerheid, security of food, and they want to take it away. That's absurd.
I don't have the helicopter view to really point out what is good and what is bad, and you have to connect the dots. And I'm not certain if I'm the right person to connect all those dots.
And what do you think about the fact that younger generations now are potentially not going to be able to be farmers?
That's right, I hear.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
That's right, I hear. It's a shame. It's a real big shame.
We truly believe in journalism and the fundamentals of journalism and grassroots journalism. It's just simple as that, honest, independent journalism. It's not about getting respected. It's not about any of that. It's not about fitting into any club. For us, it's about,
Telling
what
the
we
other
do.
side of the story.
We come here to the Netherlands, and we want to just show what's happening. Just try and stick to the facts. That's it. And then we can let viewers decide for themselves what they think. We believe that that's what journalism should be. Showing facts, the other side of the story, as Lewis said, and just basically pointing the camera and showing what's happening. That's why we do live streams, so that there's just no debate. You put on the live stream, and people are watching and they can see for themselves. They can decide for themselves. Do they agree with the protests? Do they agree with the farmers? Do they think the farmers are violent? Do they think the farmers are peaceful? Whatever the case may be, if you just point the camera and shoot and show what's happening, people can decide for themselves what they want, and they cannot say that you're twisting the narrative to fit any sort of agenda or whatever. Again, whatever narrative you're trying, there is no narrative with Rebel. We just show the facts and we just point the camera and let the viewers decide for themselves.
Maybe there is a narrative, the forgotten one, when it comes to mainstream coverage on large protests. And how does this affect you? Not only was our goal to tell the truth in the Netherlands, but it was also to tell the truth to the world. For Lincoln, it was Canada. For myself, it was the UK. The World Economic Forum has their tentacles in all of our countries and all of our cabinets. But how many of our countries have that metaphorical little boy who plugged the leak in the dam with his finger?
So we are getting bigger and bigger, and more people's getting their eyes closed or open. They see now what's happening, we see the light. And that's the reason why we do this. And we are all one team, one job, we are humans, we are not criminals.